What was it like managing people at 18 years old? I assume the large majority of people you manage then, and probably even today, are or older than you. And I'm sure for some of them, that's kind of awkward to be managed by someone. I remember the first time I was managed by someone younger than me, and it felt weird because I'm like, I have all this experience and this person telling me what I should be doing or how I should be doing stuff. And it can be difficult to push down your ego and realize that you aren't, just because you're older does not make you more senior or more knowledgeable. And then also for a younger founder, how do you handle that? How do you handle managing people who might have egos and who are older and feel like they have strong opinions?
I think having a great COO that is older, at least a little bit older than me, which hasn't been hard to do, just given my age profile, I think it's delicate. I think that there's an art to it. I also think I learned pretty early on that I'm not very good at that art. So as soon as it's become feasible at both companies, we've hired sort of chief operating officers, whatever you want to call them, general managers to kind of interface with the majority of the team. And I think that's great because ultimately the way I look at my role is I have to sell a vision. I have to keep the team bought into that vision. And ultimately, a lot of the nuts and bolts of kind of how you handle performance reviews and see if people are stacking up directly, it's great to have a hire that can do that and sort of insulate you from a lot of that. And then I think it's actually better for team morale. We've seen when we implement those people, team morale goes up because it creates this sort of diversion where you can talk to the COO about things related to work performance or management feedback and things like that. And yet you still feel like there's someone kind of driving the bus or raising money from investors or doing these other things. So I think it's good, but the short answer is not being the direct manager, but creating some level of distance between you and your team. So you're not their boss, you're just the CEO, or you're not the boss, you're just the founder. And you're the guy that talks about like what the company's going to look like in 4 years. Or you're the guy that talks to VCs and brings a couple $1 million home so everyone gets raises, is a great way to kind of get team alignment. And then the team cares a lot less about your age than maybe if you were talking to them every day and directly reviewing their work performance and doing things like that. So the short answer is I haven't cracked it. I found that it's actually easier to hire someone that's, a little bit more, number one, palatable to them. But number two, that's just maybe a little bit better on those soft skills. But that distance then sort of avoids tension because if you're not directly working with that person, or directly reporting to them, there's someone in between. There's a lot less ego around age or things like that.
So arguably, you have cracked it by figuring out what you just explained. So I think you maybe have cracked it. With that said, you still have to manage that COO, right? Presumably that COO is also more senior than you, has a lot of experience, is probably part of why you brought them on board, is because they had that more experience. And now you're still their boss. You're still managing them, if not the rest of the team. So even how do you handle their egos and their strong opinions? Or do you hire for people who say like, I will have a strong opinion, but I will agree to disagree at some points and just move on?
Well, it's like a relationship. It's a lot easier to have one significant other than it is to have, 10 or 12 at the same time. So for starters, it is a lot easier, to find the one right person and kind of talk to them and even manage and provide good feedback and be an effective manager for one or two people than it is, for 30 or 40 or 50 people at once. So I think that, part of it's just you have more time, you can give more attention, you can be a little bit more sensitive to how they feel about things and kind of have, just like provide more direct access to it. But also oftentimes I found that these operators are very good at running the company, but they're not necessarily typically very good at doing the math, in the sense that rarely are these people coming and sniffing out $100 million opportunities or $1 billion opportunities. They're typically very proficient and good at running a P&L and great at running people. But they are usually self-cognizant enough to understand that they can't sit down in front of a laptop and come up with something, and raise a couple $1 million and create, $20-30 million of enterprise value in the span of a couple of weeks. So they're often looking for someone that can do that and complements that. I don't really hire first-time COOs, so I typically hire people that have worked in that role before, that have worked with CEOs, ideally at fast-growing companies, and I will often call that CEO and say, hey, what was your experience, and why aren't you working with this person anymore, and hear from them, and that typically gives me a good judge of kind of the working dynamic and their character.